Two mobile phone towers are in range and are located 2 kilometres apart along a straight road that runs east to west. Your location is north of the road. Based on the signal strength, you have determined that you are 1.5 kilometres from Tower 1 and 800 metres from Tower 2. Determine your direction relative to Tower 1, the time it would take you to get to the road if you walked for 5 kilometres per hour. The first thing that's important about this is that we need to set our calculator to be in the right mode. So because we're talking about directions, or your direction relative to Tower 1, directions are always measured in degrees. So at this point, I'm going to go over to my calculator and just double check. Yes, we are in degrees. If you're not, you need to press Shift, Setup. Go down here to Angle and change it to degrees. Okay, the other thing that we want to note quickly is that if they have been kind enough to give you the diagram, which they didn't need to do, you could have formed it from the information given. But if you get the diagram and it looks equilateral, never assume that it is equilateral. Okay, so let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change this one measurement to 0.8 kilometres. Now everything's in units of the same. Now we're going to work out our direction relative to Tower 1. So I'm going to start assigning these things. I'm going to call this A, this B, this C, which means that this is lower C, this one's little a, and this one's little b. Okay, so now I'm just going to go through like I always do and state what I've got. Okay, so little a is 2 kilometres, little c is 1.5, b is 0.8. Now, if we want our direction relative to Tower 1, it means like you're at Tower 1, what is the bearing that you would need to get back up there? So we want to find this angle in here, meaning that this is the one that we want to find. So now I'm going to chuck this straight in my calculator by first selecting the correct formula from the formula sheet. Now I've got these 3 and 1 angle, meaning that I'm going to use the cosine rule. Now cosine rule is normally a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. Now the really important thing here is that this matches with this. Okay, so let's make sure we get them assigned correctly. So that'll be the 0.8 squared is equal to 2 squared plus 1.5 squared minus 2 times 2 times 1.5 cos of our angle. Now, normally we would rearrange it, and it's careful to be careful when you're rearranging, because these two terms will come across first. Then you would divide by all of this. But because this is tech active, we're going to use solven, or you can just use solve at this point. So let's go over here to our calculator. Option, calc, solven, 0.8 squared is equal to 2 squared plus 1.5 squared minus 2 times 2 times 1.5 times cos x, comma x. Remember, it's important to tell the calculator what you're solving for. Most of the time it won't have any effect, but sometimes it will. Okay, so now you can see that because it's a cos function, it's going to give me lots of different values here. I'm going to scoot on over to the one that's closest to 0, or the positive one that's closest to 0. So here that's 20.77. So x equals 20.77 degrees. So therefore I can say, now they've stated this in the answers in a strange way. They said your north of east, and that's how they stated their answer. So when they say it's north of east, it means you start on the east direction and you go up. So they've really said it as east 20.77 degrees north. The opposite of that is you could determine that it's going to be north and then do 90 minus this to get 69.23 degrees east. Or you could state it as a true bearing, which would be 0.069 degrees true. So any of those options should be fine. Just make sure that you make a statement. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do, now that we know this angle in here is 20.77 degrees, it's asking us that if we walk due south, so here's where we started, we walk due south, meaning that that's a right angle. At 5 kilometers per hour, how long would it take? So if I'm looking at it like this, I can quite easily see that this is going to become a right angle triangle. This is the opposite side, this is the adjacent side, this is the hypotenuse. If I want to determine how long it's going to take me, I care about the distance of this opposite side. So we're going to use our sine ratio to work that out. So sine of 20.77 is equal to our opposite over the hypotenuse, which is 1.5, and then I'll take this up to the other side, cancel that out. So now 1.5 sine 20.77, the opposite side has a length of 0.5319. We'll leave it as that. We'll just say it's in kilometres. If I was rounding, I would say that that opposite side is approximately equal to 0.53 kilometres. Okay, so that helps us because now we've got our distance that we've walked, we've got our speed that we walked at. Now, if you think about how we calculate speeds in terms of methods, we normally do that the speed is the rate of change between the distance with respect to time. So that means that if I want to work out the time it's going to take, I need to take this one and swap its place with the speed. So the time is going to be equal to the distance divided by the speed. So that's going to be 0.53 divided by 5 kilometres an hour, and that's going to give me 0.1 something, 0.1064 hours. And if I want to convert this into minutes, I need to times it by 60 because that's how long it'll take in minutes, which would give me 6.38 minutes. Okay, and if I wanted to convert it to seconds, I'd take that 0.38 and I'd times that by 60, and that would give me my seconds. But most questions won't ask you to be that exact.